Oh well, pausing it didn't seem to work terribly well, so whilst you've been surfing the net and waiting for the next thrilling episode, I've been doing some work on the box. Now you saw me mark out the holes, and I've cut the holes in the back. I left this one because I wanted to just show you how I did it. Because this metal is so thin, I opted to use a chassis punch rather than a step drill, because I thought the step drill would just rip this to pieces. It's just wafer thin, absolutely wafer thin. So I've already drilled pilot holes, then a slightly larger hole, and then put that in there. So you drill a small pilot hole, then drill the hole for the centre bolt for the chassis punch. And I'll show you one of these being done, just in case you've never seen it being done before. If you do a lot of project work at home, it's worth getting these little chassis punches, because they're just so useful, and as you can see, they make great holes, beautiful neat holes, even in this very thin material. It's not all distorted. So when you've made one of these holes and you take it off, you actually get the residue, the metal disc in there. You can just use your Allen key to get that out. Usually this one is not going to come out because I've got the camera running. It's always the way, isn't it? The other four came out really easily, but this one is going to be stubborn. There we go, it gets moved. There we go. So that disc of metal came out of one of those holes. Can't remember which one. So let's do the last one. These holes are a pretty good fit. That hole there is a pretty good fit for this bolt, so that you don't get your holes going all over the place. So screw that in there. Be careful not to mark your panel, because you do want this to look like a bought one after all. You screw that on that side. Use the Allen key to just tighten the bolt up and pull this plug through the panel. It's as simple as that. You might see the panel wobble around a little bit under the strain as it goes through, but as you saw on the other side, it doesn't distort the panel. You're left with a nice, neat looking job. And you can see how thin this is, because that's flexing considerably. And there we go. So that was the last one. If you're interested, what size is this? This is the perfect size for doing SO239 sockets. Whether it's these ones or whether it's the flat flange ones, doesn't really matter. The hole size is the same. And that is a 5/8. So it's a 5/8 inch if you're in America, or the UK. If you're anywhere else, it's 15.9 millimeters, so very good. A little chassis punch. You can get these all sizes. I've got these ranging from small sizes like this for these sort of things, up to fairly big ones for valve bases and what have you, and they're well worth buying if you do a lot of projects. I haven't done a project for about 30 years, so there we go. Right, so let's get that out of the way. Now I've also pre-drilled the front panel for the switch, and I've drilled the little locator hole next to it as well. So I measured that and drilled that as well, because on the switch there's a little stud, so that when you mount it and you're putting a rotational force on the switch to change the positions, the little peg is going through the front panel and stops the switch from going round, and stops you having to tighten up the nut every 10 minutes. So we just put that on. Actually, probably. Oops. Oh. Now my pegs come out. Okay, so I think it was what one? What one was it? I think it was that one. Put that back in. I'll just check that. It's coming out again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's it. Right, so we put that through there, like that. Put the spring washer on the outside, and then put the nut. Plastic thread, of course. That's going to be a bit fiddly to get that on there. There we go. Actually, I'm wondering whether that spring washer should be on the reverse side. I think it probably should be, actually. I'll put the spring washer on the inside. Because when I rotate it, it's going to bite. If I put the spring washer on the outside, it's going to bite into that panel, but then with this on the outside, it might mark the panel anyway, but we'll see how that looks. As I say, it's 30 years since I've done a project, so bear with me here. And if it's a monumental cock up, you'll know what not to do, won't you? Okay, well that actually looks okay. I think I'll just nip that up with a... I don't know what happened. I had a set of these, and it was a really small one. This is the smallest one I can find. So I'm just going to nip that up. Don't nip it up with pliers because it will just... You'll graunch the edges and it will just look terrible. So just use a small adjustable spanner just to nip that up. There you go, that's not going to go anywhere. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. It won't go any further. Bit of plastic thread. I don't want to put too much pressure on it with a bloody great spanner like that because I don't want it to go bing and then have to go and spend another $2 on another switch. That's... There we go. That's 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. And I've got a knob there somewhere, so I'll put that knob on it. Once I've cut the shaft, so being a plastic shaft, be very easy to cut to size, then I'll put that knob on it. Might even put some numbers on the panel so we can see, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and when that's tightened up, that'll be like that, so that'll look reasonably neat. Now I've mounted this, as you can see, off centre. I did wonder about putting it there, but I thought, well, if I put it there and then I want to put some more relays in and maybe put some more sockets on and have it switching inputs and outputs, there wouldn't be anywhere to put a switch. So I thought, well, if I put it over to that side, it doesn't look too out of place, and I can put another switch, I can mount another switch there later on if I want to modify it. Same reason for the, I think I might have mentioned this in the previous one, but these 4 over here, that one over there, so there's actually room for some more there if you want to change the purpose of it, or just, you know, expand the project a bit. Okay, so let's try putting one of these on. Start at the bottom, because it's difficult to get into the bottom ones with the top ones in place. That looks all right. Perfect fit with those nice little chassis punch. Put the ring on with the solder tag. Just got to solder the braid to that. I won't know until this is actually put together with RG58 inside whether we've got any weird current loops and stuff. If we do, then I'll hardwire it and take the RG58 out. But for now, we'll have that in there. And I ripped one of my fingernails off, so I've trimmed my I cut my fingernails between now and the last episode, so now I haven't got a fingernail to get under the tab. So what we do is we bend the tab slightly before we put it on there. And again, if you do a lot of projects, get yourself a Leatherman or something like that, because these things are invaluable. They really are. Just bend that out a bit like that. the wrong way around. Often there's a flat side to these nuts, so you want to make sure you get it the right way around. Want the tab up the top there, like that. Go and get that up with spanner, not pliers, because it will graunch otherwise. So just get a small wrench, small adjustable spanner, and just nip that up like that. So hopefully you can see that. A pretty central position there. It doesn't really matter if it's over here. In fact, it might have actually been better if it was over there with soldering that on once the top one's in, but won't worry about that. I think there is fine. And we'll do the same with the next one. Bend that over. And if you can be fussed, you can make holes with these. Drill a lot of little holes, and then file it out so there is one flat edge to stop this rotating. But you know, if you do that up reasonably tight, round hole's fine. The amount of times you're going to be taking things on and off of here, you're not going to be doing it. You're not going to be putting them on with wrenches, so it's only going to be finger tight. I wouldn't worry about it. So round hole's fine for that. He says confidently. The next video I'll be cursing, no doubt, but for this one, there we go. And move the tag around like that. Like that. And there we go, there's that one. You could probably put a PL259 plug in that and hold it to just nip those up, that extra, you know, tenth of a turn or whatever, just to make those really tight. Yeah, see, that one won't move, this one will, because my hand is a bit sweaty. I've been doing a bit of drilling, and you know, this is about the most physical exercise I've had for the last hang on. Right, got a 259 plug here, so if I put that in there like that and put that on there like that, I should be able to nip that up much easier so that it's nice and tight. Make sure the tag's in the right place. Get the tag in the right place. There we go. Nip that up nice and tight. That's because this is coated with that bloody shiny stuff, this aluminium. That is slipping round slightly. Let's see if that bottom one does that. Yeah, it does move very slightly. So probably the thing to do with these would be to, if you don't want to go to all the trouble of making a hole with a flat edge, once this is in like this and it's all correctly aligned, just put a bit of just put a dab of 5-minute epoxy on there, and that will just lock that into position. Make sure that's nice and tight, as tight as it's going to get anyway. Okay. There you go. So yeah, so just mix up a bit of that 5-minute epoxy, just put a little dab here, little dab there, little dab there, little dab there. These things will never move. They'll never move again. So that's just too easy. It's a lot less effort than trying to get a hole with a flat edge to stop these things rotating, I'll tell you. I might not have done a project for 30 years, but I do remember that much. Right. Go in there. Like that. Well, you get the gist of this anyway. And I also pre-drilled the box, all the holes before mounting any of this stuff. I haven't done the holes for the relays, but that's not a problem because they're only going to go there. And I'll just have the thing on a flat surface and I'll just drill through like that. So that's not a problem. But you know, getting these mounted, getting the power socket mounted, is you want to get all the holes drilled before you start mounting any of this stuff, because otherwise it will just be a real pain. Trying to drill holes when you've got things protruding through surfaces and goodness knows what else is really bad news. That's me nipping that up. So I could really do with that. I've got a really neat little bloody spanner. And do you think I can put my bloody hand on it? Yeah, that's okay. So that's another one. 2 to go. I don't know whether actually to continue recording and show you the last 2 or not, because I mean, you obviously get the gist of this, how it's going to go, how it's going to look. But anyway, I'll persevere. You can always hit stop and go back to the pornography, which will be someone playing with an Alpha 77, of course. Right. Put that in there. Give him a bit of a tighten up. Oh, sorry, I said give him a bit of a tighten up. That's what people do in Australia, if I haven't mentioned it before. Australians tend to allocate a sex to inanimate objects. So you don't tighten it up, you tighten him up. You switch him on, you switch him off. So I've been here for 20 years, so I am getting into some of these Australian habits. Some good, some bad. There we go. Right, so that's the 4. What's going to be the 4 rig inputs? Oops, the 4 rig inputs. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll put the actually I'll put the power socket on first before I put the antenna one on, because I'll need to get the spanner on that. It's going to be down there, and I don't want to be having to get the spanner over the top thing. Put that in there. Like that. Get it into a position where I can easily get to the tags that I'm interested in. Like that, and then just nip that up with the spanner. Move that round a bit so that when it's tight it's going to be in the right spot. There we go.